Okay, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Lucky today to have live from IMC in Prospect, Peter the Chief Graham. Peter's one of Australia's best and most versatile combat athletes, having competed across many different codes: karate, boxing, kickboxing, MMA, amongst others, and has faced some crazy opponents in your time. I was just looking at the list. The list is just breathtaking, really. Like some of the people you've faced, I'm going to read a couple of them out. They're the best opponents you can find in Oceania and in the world. Badahari, Paul Slawinski, Andre Mounier, Doug Viney, Semi Schilt, Andrew Peck, Ricardo Vanderbos, Ronnie Sefo, Jason Suddy, Hirua Tarangi, Remy Bonjanski, Sam Greco, keeps going. Mitch O'Hello, Chris Chrysopolidis, Mike Angove, Mark Hunt, Adam Watt, Fatty Hadara, Phil Fagan, Stan Longanides, Gurkan Ozcan, Clay Amatagi, Ben Hamilton, amongst others. And then you go to MMA and you've got Marius, I don't know how to say the name, Pudzianowski, Mighty Mo, yeah, Czech Congo, Alexander Emelianenko, Halls Gracie, and one of the most notable current fighters, a KO of II Vasa. So just so many great opponents you've had in your time, Peter. Amazing.
Yeah, I think that's what you want when you're a fighter. When you're a fighter, you want to fight, right? So, and I guess I always put it like being a mountain climber. If you're a mountain climber, you want to climb Everest. It's that's the challenge. So the challenge was always to find someone fun and interesting to fight. So yeah, you're right.
Well,
the other thing is I was going to say the other thing is I wanted to not not bullshit myself. Say, you want to fight? Let's go. You want him, man? Let's see who really is, the best we can figure out who to fight, and if I can fight him, I'm happy to.
Awesome. Talking to Larry in the past, who actually was the one that told me I should have a chat with you. He was saying that in the old times of martial arts, that the true masters, their whole belief was to test themselves and test their art in the combat arena. And you've certainly done that, looking at your resume. Amazing.
Well, that's it. I started with Kyokushin karate, of course. And I had, Masayama was like, Kyokushin is just like, it's almost like a martial arts cult built around him. And, the whole story about him was, he said, man, I'll fight everyone, and he's got, Ayama had a, black belt in judo, a black belt in another style of karate. He was he had boxing fights, and, so, he was trying to figure out what works best for him. And I always thought that was the best kind of go around it. You want to kind of see how good your style is, not just, striking or just grappling or just, throwing. So I just said, man, let's go. I mean, that, and also, sometimes there's a lack of opportunity fighting out of Oceania in Australia. Just saying, if I'm going to get to where I want to go, if I want to be an A-class fighter, if something dries up, I just got to take something else. As an amateur, I literally ran out of people to fight as a kickboxer. I said, I'll do amateur boxing, because I was already doing, full contact karate. I thought, well, I got the kicks and knees covered. I said, well, let's improve the hand.
Yep. Now it's interesting you mentioned about the Kyokushin ethos from Mas Oyama. Like I wasn't aware of that till recently, that he was the type of guy that believed in diversifying your skill set and being able to take on any style, and the fact that the high level Kyokushin fighter should be able to match themselves with anyone, be they a grappler, be they some other type of fighter, which is a good way of thinking, where some other codes just concentrate on their own style. They're not looking at, they kind of blind themselves to some of the other different forms, but Kyokushin lends itself to being more versatile, and then for guys like you that then branch off into the combat arena.
Yeah, well, Masayama always, his whole ethos was be able to hit someone and they stay hit. So, then he said, oh, how can I do that without really messing people up so they can go to work? So that's why they didn't have head punches. But his whole thing was, he should be able to hit him with a reverse punch, and drop him to the guts. And as that was a headshot, to be out cold, but they can still go back to work. But of course, like high-end Kyokushin guys should be able to fight, and understand, that there's only, about 15, 16% of what the whole style has in their tournaments. But, from first dan to third dan, you should be going against everyone, as many different things as possible, not just focusing on winning, Kyokushin karate tournaments. So I took that and ran with it. I thought, you know what, I like that, and, of course, back in the day, everyone's like, oh, it was just taekwondo beat, karate, just boxing beat wrestling, or just jiu-jitsu beat Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just, whatever. So, I loved all that too. So I had that really unique opportunity that when I wasn't so well known, I could just go into any dojo and you take the free lesson and see what they've got. I always loved that.
Great. Peter, having a look at your record online, I'd want to confirm what the correct record is. It says you've had around 112 fights mixing all together. Is that correct, or it's a bit wrong?
Oh, it's a bit. So as a pro, 127. So there's some of them they don't add in what they call like hybrid fights.
Yeah.
So Draka is it's not considered quite MMA because it's like Thai boxing with judo throws and wrestling.
Yep.
And only a limit of 20 seconds on the ground, and then they stand it back up.
Awesome. So 127 pro fights, across a few different codes. Looking at your the ones that are listed online, are you still there, Pete?
See each other, punch the fuck out of each other. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah,
so looking
fighting to Vasa was a.
Say again, sorry.
I was going to say fighting to Vasa was a hybrid fight as well.
Yeah.
It was no kicks. So I thought that's good because everyone knew that he was a big puncher. When I fought him, it was 10-0 and won every fight in the first round.
Yeah.
And this was, this particular style of fighting was really leaned towards him. So no kicks at all, which is, what I'm good at. So I said, okay, that's good. So there's a whole bunch of, what people call hybrid fights that I had as well. So it works out to be between boxing, kickboxing, MMA, and hybrid fights. Always full contact, always pro, always the best guys I could find. Works out to be 120. I think it worked out 127 fights.
Awesome. Talking about that II Vasa fight, that was a crazy fight. And like you said, your weapons were taken away and you still managed to get the KO, which I didn't heard of until I was looking it up to see what some of your background again. And I saw that fight. That was an amazing fight. Like you took some big hits and came back to take him out.
Well, I told his management, I said, look, man, I see what you guys are doing. It's a great idea. I thought that's a good move. Fight the older guy who looks like, could be beatable, and then get a good name as a good win before going off to the, A-class platform like Bellator or UFC or ONE FC. But I said to them, you got to understand that II Vasa and that style of fighter is my bread and butter. Big, strong Islanders who can take a punch and give a punch. And, that kind of dangerous athlete works out well for me. And I said, he's particularly good for me because he's never been taken out of the first round. And he is about, in my personal opinion, he was 20 kilos over fight weight. He should have been lighter. And I said, once he gets out of that first round, he's going to be in all sorts of trouble. And I know that I can take a punch. I've got a jaw like a piece of granite. I said, and then I'll win. And they say, no, Pete, it's okay. We understand, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, you passed it. And I'm like, okay, fine, fuck you.
Yeah, actually, speaking about that, Peter, what are you made of, mate? You haven't broken a bone, a ligament, anything in a massive pro career. You like you said, your jaw's made of granite. You even look a little bit like Mr. Incredible. What is it, mate?
I don't know. I think one of the things is, I didn't pump myself full of anything. I fought all the time. And I think I was thinking about this recently because I'm 45 now, I turned 46 in August. And I went, like, to begin with, it was a bit of a joke, whatever. But then, the older I get, I go, yeah, you're right. It is. And, I've been bruised, but you're right. I've never broken a bone. I've never torn a ligament, never tore a muscle, nothing. And I think
That's
it comes
amazing.
down to I just had a good feeling for my body.
Yeah.
And
And I
I never
think
stopped. I
also,
never had breaks between fights.
yeah,
I listened to myself.
I think
You know,
also what you mentioned in the other interview too, that you pay attention to rest and recovery, and also you understand that, or later in your career, you start to understand that what you put into your body also makes a difference to recovery, right?
massively. To begin with, I had the worst diet ever, but because I trained all the time and I fought all the time, uh, and I was a heavyweight, so I wasn't trying to, cut 20 kilos or 10 kilos or anything. I wasn't putting extra stress on my body. But then as I got older, I said, oh, hold on, I actually, I feel that, getting enough rest, and eating a better quality of food uh, was a difference that was, something that's important. The other thing is, I took supplements and people say, oh, that does, that's not going to do anything or whatever. So, well, you know what, if it helps me 0.5%, and that's the difference between just getting a win and just losing, I thought about it and rolled with it. And
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. It's like, the UFC Fight Center they're opening up. It just sounds awesome. They test
Yeah.
your body temperature in the morning, seeing if you're fighting off a small virus, and what foods are particularly tweaked for your
Yeah.
your particular body type and blood type. I think it's awesome for extending careers and rest and recovery, understanding about your own body. It just gives you more time to get better at your craft, doesn't it?
Yeah. And just like everything progressed so far, the early days for MMA, training at all different gyms, doing different codes of fighting, and now the knowledge around about diet and rest and recovery and all these different things. It's a different time from when you started in the sport, where you're kind of experimental, right? You're just learning as you go.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm super lucky. I mean, I had Larry Papadopoulos, for me, the premier MMA coach in Australia. I mean, he was, in Japan in the 90s, when Pride was big. The only reason he didn't go to Pride because he was top of Shudo, right? So,
Yeah.
and Pancras as well. And, if you ever met Larry, if he's on your team, he's on your team forever. He's such a good guy. But so I already had all the experience of him and his guys. So, I guess when I look at Larry's understanding, it's so easy to have faith in such a knowledgeable coach. And although we're definitely further along the understanding chain of rest and recovery and training, everything now, I think Larry is still, he was a decade ahead of everyone else. He already knew about, Olympic lifting, but really knew, done the courses, he already was a wrestling coach, black belt in jiu-jitsu. He'd done kickboxing, boxing, pancras, you name it, and competed in all of them at the absolute top level. And when it translated to me, especially for MMA, I didn't have to worry about things that someone who even if they're really enthusiastic and knowledgeable, only just got into it. Doing it for now, he must have close to. He must have been doing MMA close to 40 years, and how many people in Australia has got that kind of credential?
Exactly. And the thing about Larry is he's a student of the game, and always has continued to learn. As he doesn't just sit back with what he has. He's always looking at some sort of development that's relative in a way to fighting, martial arts, etc. The body, everything. Very good.
Yeah, he's got he's got 4/5 of a chiropractic degree as well. He almost he might even have it. So that means he can fuck you up and then go, you know what? You really need to get that stuff. You're really hurt, man. You need to go get that. You know what I mean? So, from a really academic point of view, he understands what's going on, with the wrestling, the boxing, the kickboxing, he understands that. And he also understands, the best way to make it effective and heal as well. So, Larry was awesome. Such a wonderful coach and top bloke, one of my best friends.
Sure, he's a top bloke. I wanted to jump way back for you as well, man. Like where you started out, and in other things that I listened to, you you were a part of youth refuges, etc. As a child. Can you talk back to like what it was like as a child for you, like how you felt and everything before you embarked on your martial arts career?
Yeah, I guess, it's kind of, one of the things is, I guess, because I moved so much and in so many different areas on so many different things, I just never picked up anything. I never, picked up on, never had long-term friends because I never got to move into like a permanent refuge.
Yeah.
My mum wouldn't sign the paperwork for me to live, for the government to look after me. So they always just go from crisis to medium term, and medium term at that stage was, from 1 to 3 months. Also the other thing is I came from a nice suburb, not a bad suburb,
Yeah.
and so I was scared. I'm like, man, these kids who are from the inner city and the western suburbs, these guys are badasses. I don't want them to find out I'm from the sunny North Shore of Sydney. Although, I moved to the inner west at that time, was a lot more, staunch than what it is now.
Yeah.
I didn't have any street cred or anything like that. So going from refuge to refuge all the time, and, every different place, you just kind of never picked up education as well. My education was terrible.
Yeah.
And it was tough. And, it was tough and it was lonely. And although I've always been, they always had something in me saying, that's all right, you'll do well. You'll find something. Everyone's got something. And I didn't know what mine was, but I always felt something inside me going, don't worry, you'll find it, you'll find it. But at that stage, I wasn't like, Tom Sawyer. I wasn't like, the smart street smart ruffian, or wasn't like really creative, or I wasn't like, really intelligent, who, when you see in movies and stuff. I literally had nothing. I wasn't good at school, wasn't good at making friends. I didn't play any sport at all in high school. I smoked cigarettes and got drunk with other kids. I just found everything a challenge, and I had ADD as well, which just means that learning anything was really tough also.
Yeah. So it felt like coming from that kind of unstable environment, moving around, refuges, maybe a little bit frightening. From what I've listened to, it gives me the sense that you might have been searching for something to give you a sense of pride and feel good about yourself. Would that be a correct thing that channeled you into the martial arts?
You know what? You nailed it. I was, but I was, people used to call me when I was a kid, say, "Oh, you're a tryhard." I'm like, yeah, I am, man. I really am a tryhard. I didn't get it that, in that particular area, try hard was an insult. I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to try hard. And like, oh, you're a warrior. I'm like, yeah, I do. I want to be something, So when I found something that just hard work and effort could get me over the line, I remember that first class I did, and I thought I can just try really hard. And if that guy's good, I'll just do it twice as much. And if that guy's really good, I'll just do it 3 times as much. I'll just out train everyone.
Yeah.
And I thought, and my whole thing was just pick one thing. That first class was a Birkenhead point with my sensei, a guy called Graham Porter. He was, he was everything. Later on I found out he's everything that I thought, a man should be. He's tough. He's got a good family, makes money. But all the things that I thought, was a good bloke.
Yeah.
He wouldn't take any shit from me either. And it was life changing. I just thought, this is it. I just got to work harder than everyone else. And it did.
It's kind of I just mentioned to Adrian Pang yesterday, I was having a talk with him, and the common theme that's coming out, I've only been doing a few interviews so far, and the real common theme that's coming out is guys like yourself, Cameron Quinn, Larry, Adrian, that you found something and you just felt like it was what you were meant to be doing. And the second thing that pops out is the fact that you guys, once you started, you just took to it like crazy. Like Cameron was saying, he was going to the dojo 4 hours a day as a kid, hitchhiking many kilometers, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week training.
Yeah.
And it seems that you're the same. You jumped straight in head first. You mentioned ADD before too. Do you think this gave you some propensity to just keep going and trying harder and harder and training to get to where you wanted to be?
Absolutely. You know, the thing about ADD, I now see the #1 specialist in the country.
Mm.
You know, I do everything. You know, before I never used to tell anyone. I was, embarrassed. I didn't want to have anything wrong with me. I didn't want to have, any chips in my armor. And I went, you know what? Fuck it, it's me, man. I got ADD, and hey, look at the cat.
Let's see what dog.
And I went, oh, yeah, exactly, right. But that's who I am. But I said to him, his name's I don't know if I can say, his name's Dr. Kneebone. That's his real name.
Yeah.
He's awesome. And I said, why is it so prevalent?
Yeah.
And he said, well, a few hundred years ago or whatever, fighting wars and in battles and stuff like that, you can't be too focused on one thing for too long a period of time. Someone hits your head in the head with an axe from behind.
Yeah.
So combat sports or, or surfing or things like that are actually really, really, really productive for people with ADD. They take it up really well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the right thing. There's lots of action, super focused. You lose focus for a second, smacking the side of the head. So, and it's not hours and hours of sitting down, writing or reading or drawing or thinking about that. So I think it was the best thing to do.
Yeah. And
martial arts is really beneficial.
True. And so I'm going to jump around a few topics just to make sure I cover the things I wanted to jump onto, and it will keep you entertained anyway. The fighting and training in different countries, can you talk about that at all? Did you try training in different places? Japan as an example. You mentioned the States as well. Where did you train and where did you visit in your career?
Yeah, you're right. I went all over the world. I lived in Japan. And I spent lots and lots of long periods in North America, in the United States, and some time in Brazil.
Yep.
But I guess one of the things that I noticed the most about when the first time I went to the United States to train is everyone was like, oh man, that's awesome, man. You're going to be the champ. Everyone's getting behind everyone, and then if you feel down, they're saying, get up, man, you're going to be the champ. And at first, because, it's kind of not really the way that, I guess, Australians do it. I don't think we have tall poppy syndrome as much as other sports or things. The combat sports doesn't seem to have it too much.
Yeah.
But, when I got there, I thought, oh, it's fake. I didn't think that's real. And after a while, it's just not, man. They're just building each other up. And I really like that about training with Americans. I thought that's really cool. I really like training in Brazil.
Yep.
Because after the first kind of day, they're like, oh, who's this big white bastard? And they try to kill me. The next day, it's like, oh, he's all right. He's like family now. Literally come around for a barbecue, and always stayed friends with them forever. You don't see him for forever. And then you say, hey, Peter, go, man, let's go. Good to see you, man. We're going to come back to Brazil. They always make you feel welcome and loved and everything. That's cool. And I guess in Japan, and I always say there's the rest of the world and there's Japan. In Japan, once you feel loved for your actual ability, they really, really deeply, truly understand and respect combat sports and martial arts. And so you get to meet some really, really humble but crazy good athletes come and train with you. And so, it's exciting. It's such a, Japan had a war within itself for 400 years or something. So so refined. Everything is a process and a program, and I like that too. So, but in saying all that, I did that because it was hard to get stuff in Australia. But now I think Australia really has enough good coaches that we can produce top end combat sports athletes and martial artists.
Yep. Perfect. And there's quite a few gyms around, such as yours, that integrate everything together that you need rather than having to travel around anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true. And they know the difference, and people will become educating themselves saying, this is done for this, this is done. These guys are really good at this. Let's understand what they do instead of knocking all the stuff that they do bad. I say, I think someone that, something that people kind of give a lot of shit to is Taekwondo. but
Yeah.
you can learn some of their crazy spin kicks if you can integrate that into a good MMA program. It's a great finishing move. You want I say you got to be good at all your basics.
Yeah.
Then have something everyone's going to remember you by.
Exactly. Nice KO highlight reels with a spinning hook kick, right?
Yeah, spinning hook kick, or Mark Hunt, his walk off KO. You got to, you play to your strengths, So I guess, that's one of the things that's cool. We got enough, and we got enough people who are open to new ideas and suggestions, but really understand MMA as a whole and boxing as a whole, and kickboxing, Thai boxing, whatever.
Yep, true. Jumping on to another subject, listening to you mentioned the importance of the mindset and fight psychology in high level competition. How did you prepare yourself? Because you're fighting against killers, man. Like, these guys that you're fighting against are the best in the game. How do you prepare for these sort of people?
Mental preparation, I always found it easier if I put in the work. When you're lying in bed before a morning run or a morning workout and it's cold, and you got to have something to motivate you to get out of bed. And my mindset really was always, I got to have a reason to win, and I got to have a reason that if I don't win, things are going to be shit.
Yeah.
So I was desperate, literally desperate to get up that that ladder. I wanted to be the top. I wanted to fight the top. I didn't want to embarrass myself and my country and my team and my gym. I thought I got to put in that hard work, and I'm scared. Some of these guys, you're right, they're terrifying. Like the second time I fought Mark Hunt, the first time Mark Hunt knocked me. It was a flash knockout, and I'm like, wow, that's never happened to me before. I was like, damn, and so my very next fight, I fought him again.
Yep.
And so, that gets you out of bed. My mindset was, do the hard work. You almost, in the first fight, I almost beat him, but we know in combat sports, almost beating someone doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
12 rounds in boxing and win every round, get knocked out in the 12th. Guess what? You come second. So my mindset was always like, stay focused, stick to it. And by the time I got there to the fight, I thought, I have done as much as I can. I've tried to tick every box to the best of my ability. And now, let's go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I've got to step through the ropes, to the cage to find out what's going to happen. And I was at peace with that. I know from years of training that I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give up. I know I can take a punch. I know I've worked on my defense and my offense, and I know I've got to have a good strategy, and I trust my coaches. So I'm ready to go. I've ticked everything in the logical department, so I can counteract anything that's emotional, like misguided emotion. Oh, I can't do it, or I'm not big enough, or I know that's a funny thing to say, but there's guys in the heavyweight division are enormous, or whatever you think it is. I think one of the hard things from Australia too is we always think, oh, the Americans are this, or the Russians are this, or the Japanese are this, or the Europeans are this, or or Polynesians are this, but we're just Aussies.
Yeah.
So getting your head around that, so it's got nothing to do with that. I don't care where you're from or who you are, or all the other people I've fought. I think it's got nothing to do with that. I've worked as hard as I can, and let's go. So
and it's
it's the same.
And it's just a man standing in front of you, right? There's nothing different. It's just a man. Doesn't matter where they're from. You both got your weaknesses and strengths, right?
Yeah. And the good thing about combat sports, I always thought, is I don't have to get it right once.
Yeah.
You do it right once, you get to go home early.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
It. So you just, I always focused on just that one thing. I said, just get it right. Whether it was, depending on the fight, whether it was, am I just looking for that cross, or just looking to smash that leg, whatever it was, am I trying to line it up? That mindset was always the same. I said, that's my goal. That's what I want to do. I'm just going to keep coming back to it. Excuse me. Until I can't anymore.
Yeah. And you mentioned one, I'm pretty sure you mentioned you kind of second guessed yourself a little bit when you fought Stan Longanides. You had a little chink in the armor with the mental game there. What happened there?
You're right. I don't like to say that. I never want to take anything away from someone who beat me, because I always say, you know what, you won. We all get the same things in life. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, whatever. So, this isn't a, hey, I would have beat him, except for it's Stan won the fight. But what happened was I had that mental chink in the armor. When I met him for the first time, I'm like, who cares? I don't care. This is my time to shine, man. I look him in the eye, and Stan's very disarming. Super charismatic. And he was Stan the man then. 10-time world champion. He was on the front cover of all the magazines. Everyone spoke about him. He busted Dennis Alexio's leg. Snapped it in two. He was like, and if you ever saw him, he made tree trunk legs. Good boxing. He trained at the Jet Center when the Jet Center was like the best kickboxing place in the world at the time. But I was like, no, I'm cool. With a weigh-in, I'll look at him and say, man, I'm taller than this guy. I know I'm fitter than him. This is it. He's gonna underestimate my ability. I thought if I just, I stay away from his punches, I'll nail him. And then I stepped through the ropes. I walked over him, stare down, protect yourself at all times. Went back to the corner, went, fuck, this is it, man. It was, that's Stan the Man Longanides. You love this guy. Fucking hell, you've seen all these fights. And I went, I better be careful.
Yeah.
And I went push, kick, jab, up a jab for 10 2-minute rounds, playing the super safest game I could because I didn't want to get knocked out or my leg smashed by Stan the Man Longanides.
Yeah.
And I lost it mentally. And it happened one other time in my career as well. It happened in a boxing fight in China. Which wasn't too bad. Only 200 million people got to see the fight.
Only 200 million.
Yeah, just 200 million. So it was on their premier sports channel in China.
Yeah,
it's great. So everyone in China thinks I'm a pussy now. But
they've told me. Just joking.
Great. So I was fighting the number 2 guy in China.
Yeah.
Who's really the number 1? Who would have thought boxing's corrupt? I don't know. Blows my mind as well. But anyway, I was fine to fight everything. But what happened was, as I was going over that, my wife was had a medical problem. I had to go to hospital.
Yep.
And I was, and this was late in my career, and I was so worried about her. And if something happened to me, what would that mean, to my kids? And I was thinking about that instead of, thinking, hey, Pete, you can't go back to Australia now. Even if you jump on a plane and went straight back, you're still not going to, it's not going to be beneficial for anyone.
Yeah.
But I guess, it changed where my mindset was at. And I got into the fight instead of thinking exactly what I was telling you before, I'm going to hit him with the right cross, or keep looking for, the strategy that we'd trained for. I was thinking, oh, well, isn't that strange? This guy's got really strange skin.
Yeah.
Clearly the wrong thing to be thinking.
Yeah, true.
You should be doing this, maybe. And it was just shit. It was one of the worst fights I ever had.
Yeah.
And it just, it really, really tells. And for me, I'd say, the psychological part is probably the thing that people pay the least amount of attention to. And I think the further up the pay scale you go, you need to apply a lot more attention to where your head's at.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one thing with such a long career, 17 years as a pro. One thing I noticed is guys, they'd come out of nowhere and go, man, this guy's freaking awesome. You'd see this guy's so talented and everything. This guy's going to kill everyone. And then they'd fizzle out.
Yep.
Or they just disappear. What the hell happened to that guy?
Yeah.
I think, all the opportunities, all the stresses, all the different things that happen to you as, you get further up and you get more money and more fame and more doors open up, also gives you more opportunity to exploit your own weaknesses. And if you don't have that discipline and you don't have those good people around you, don't have that mental game plan, fuck it up.
True.
Some guys mess up, they end up worse than they started.
Well, if only 2 fights stand out over 127 over 17 years, I think it's not too bad, mate. I think you got a pretty good pretty good mindset there.
Oh, thanks, man. That makes me feel better.
Hey, just one more thing before we head off. I just wanted to understand, like in your mind or in your experience for yourself, when you're fighting for MMA, what would be a normal sort of week of training for you? I'm kind of interested in what you did because you also mentioned a few times that you're not doing weights, you're not doing this and that. I was interested in what would you be training if you were doing an MMA fight as a rough example, just for some insight.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. I didn't do weights. I never did weights. I guess so. I mean, genetically, I'm big. Everyone in my family's big. So I went, okay, I'm big anyway. So, and I'm strong. But for general training, as a general, my holding pattern was train twice on Monday, twice on Tuesday, once on Wednesday, twice on Thursday, twice on Friday, once on Saturday.
Yep.
Okay. Normally it was, and we'd always break it up. We'd always specific. Are we doing strength and conditioning? Okay, so it's always, body weights or, throwing wrestling dummies and stuff like that. Tactics and technique. So what are we getting for this fight? Okay, so if we've got an MMA fight, so if we're fighting II Vasa, we're not worrying about kicking. So we're worrying about takedown defense and boxing defense. My dog. Boxing defense, and drawing it out, trying to say because I'm a bit taller than him, how we can exploit that. So that was the what tactics we're going to have for that. And then sparring.
And you mentioned Peter, sorry, you mentioned about doing your sprint work for like double the amount of time that you would be in the ring for. Does that mean, like, say, just an example, you're fighting 3 5s or something like that, or let's say 5 3s. So you'd be doing 30 minutes. Is that like run, walk for 30 minutes, or how does that work?
So you need, I call it minimum fitness requirements. So a minimum fitness requirement for myself and for fighters is that you must be able to do, depending on what I deem to be the fitness exercise, you must be able to do it for twice the distance of your fight. That includes a break. So if it's 3 2s, then it's the 3 2s, 6 plus the 2 1 minute breaks in between. And you must be able to do that for twice as long. So it's either you must be able to a basic one is you must be able to spar that distance. So if you got 3 2s, you've got to be able to do 6 2s. And Shark Tank. So you get a new guy every 30 seconds, and you must be able to do that for twice the distance. If you can't do that, and if you're exhausted by the 4th round, forget about it. I'm not going to give you the fight. And that was a minimum fitness requirement.
It makes sense because it makes sense because the actual fight has so much more involvement, stresses, etc. You're going to have a higher level of fitness just to get through it, right? It's not just the physical fitness side. You've also got all that mental things that play, the draining of
you see that drains athletes so much. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, or Tabata training. So any type of Tabata training, depending on, like if you're fighting a guy who's a great wrestler, then you're throwing 3 2s. You might be throwing for 6 2s, or you might be doing 4s or 5s, or it depends. It might be, if you're doing 3 5s, guess what? Here's the bad news, and now you're doing 6 5s, and you're throwing a wrestling dummy consistently. Every 30 seconds you've got to do at least 4 throws, or whatever it is, and that's just fitness, right? I mean, that's the easiest way to win a fight too. Just be fitter.
That's it.
If you punch and kick and throw, and you've got a bit of takedown defense, or know the difference between a Kimura and Americana or whatever. And you're fitter, you're going to win.
And like you said about, if you want to be a good fighter, you got to fight. So your training was based around functional movements, functional training, rather than getting sidetracked by things that might not be as relevant to the actual fighting itself, right?
Yeah, for me it was fight. I'm a fighter. I got to fight. I mean, on average, every 2 months I had a fight.
Wow.
You're a fighter, go and fight. I know it's a bit difficult, if you've signed with one company, they're only giving you one fight or two fights, but especially as an amateur, fight. If you're MMA specifically, anything that's full contact, go in a gi jiu-jitsu tournament, go in a grappling tournament, go in a wrestling tournament, go in a boxing, go kickboxing, amateur Thai boxing, full contact karate, kashiki, you name it. If it's full contact, and part of what you do in MMA, go in it. Because if you're competing every month as an amateur in something that's full contact, you're going to get better. So when it comes to the actual fighting MMA, maybe you only had 2 or 3 fights in a year, but all the other months, you're training, you're competing, you're used to it, and you get there, and mentally you're a little tougher. I did this a couple of weeks ago, but I did this. So I think it's really important, and gets your body used to it as well.
Cool.
I just think consistency, keep doing it. Fighters got to fight. I see so many guys who have 1 fight or 2 fights, and they got 4 fights, 4 wins, and they're really careful about who they fight, and they're amateurs. It's like, no one gives a fuck about your amateur career, man. Nothing personal. It's like, good for you. Hey, hugs all around, high five. But when you get into the big bad world of the pros, they're going to tear your fucking head off. Well, one day you're going to get there, and you would have picked everyone, and they're going to get to the point where they say, well, look, man, you've got to fight someone. Then you're going to get your head torn off, and they're going to shoot down the hole. And bullshit.
That's it. Peter, just lastly, if you could just give us a quick just overview of the benefits of training martial arts at your gym, just as a last thing to chat about.
Okay, so I own a gym in Prospect in Australia called IMC. There's a whole bunch of us. I think one of the best things is we're not like a karate school that teaches kind of kickboxing, kind of boxing, kind of MMA, kind of jiu-jitsu. Our jiu-jitsu programs run by Tyrone Bell, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. The boxing is just boxing. The karate is just karate. So it's not kind of wishy-washy one or the other. I'm super lucky to have a really big gym. We can run 3 full-time classes at the same time. We've got a jiu-jitsu room, a wrestling room. We have areas for boxing, kickboxing, and karate as well. And everyone is specific to that part of combat sports or martial arts, which I guess is really me, right? I really love karate. I really love boxing. I really love Muay Thai. I really love kickboxing. I really love boxing. So I've made all the programs are really specifically what they are. So our boxing is amateur style boxing, or amateurs, because pros, of course, you want to have person specific training programs. Our Thai boxing is wooden man Thai boxing, the style that I learned. The kickboxing is Dutch style kickboxing. The karate is Kempo karate, because I do both. I do Kyokushin and Kempo now. The jiu-jitsu is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's the real deal by someone who's done it for a long time. The grappling is run by the jiu-jitsu coach. And everything is specific unto itself. So that's what we do, man. And we're friendly, and it's clean, and there's no dickheads. So
and the best thing I heard from my perspective is that it's a super inclusive environment, that people are welcome, from your casual trainer, your families, through to your high-level professionals. So this is a great idea, that everyone can blend together and everyone can be welcome in a space to train, right?
Yeah, man. That's exactly it. It's like me. I cater to me. I got a 7 and 11-year-old daughter, and they like doing martial arts. My wife likes training kickboxing, but she doesn't want to spar. I love fighting. So and I want have my mates who are other pros or ex-pros come and train with me, and I want everyone to feel comfortable. It's about combat sports and martial arts and nothing else.
Great. All right, Pete. Well, I've run out of time, but I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the time, and it's great talking to you. There's so much we can learn from guys like you that have done the hard yards and been involved in these sports for so long. I hope that in the future I can catch you again, maybe talk about something specific, maybe along with Larry together or something. We'll see how we go. But thank you again.
Awesome.